What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the attic. Someone finally pulled Dana away from Power Slap long enough to get us another numbered event. We'll be escaping the confines of the Apex for UFC 322 at Madison Square Garden. This is a big card, and the models were able to make predictions on all 14 fights. Some of the bets I laid surprised even me, so this should be interesting. Before we dig deep into this card, let's have a look at how the models performed last weekend. It's the beginning of November, so midweek, my sportsbook dropped their monthly cash boost. I claimed this in chunks over a few days, and it added up to 1.11 units this month. Not bad for free money. Next up was LFA 221, where I lost 1.4 units after going 3-3 on predictions. I was out of town camping all weekend and hardly watched any fights, so I don't have specifics on these, just the results. Around the same time as LFA, one Fight Night 37 was taking place. This card brought me 2 wins and 1 loss for a profit of 1.5 units. Then, on Saturday, we had UFC Fight Night Bonfim versus Brown. The models correctly predicted 6 of 11 fights on this card and took a loss of 1.56 units for a negative 5.22% ROI. The models were very favorite heavy on this event, but the middle of the card was full of upsets. We did start and end strong though, so fortunately the loss on this card stayed quite small. Finally, we closed the weekend by accepting the weekly bonus. This time around, I was gifted 0.41 units. Adding all of this together, the total change for the week is plus 2 cents. Obviously, with no real change to the bankroll, there isn't any change to the unit size, which is still $4.75 and 1.5 units being $7.12. Now that we're all caught up on the finances, let's jump into predictions and wagers for UFC 322. We'll be starting off the night in the lightweight division with a fight between Matheus Camilo and Viacheslav Borschchev. There's a big age gap here of nearly 9 years, with Borschchev being the older fighter at 33. They both finished most of their wins primarily in the first round. It's almost the same story for losses, but Viacheslav has had a difficult time winning decisions in the UFC, losing by unanimous decision 3 of the 5 times his fights have gone the distance. He's won a single split decision, and the other was scored a majority draw. Let's take a look at the wager history for these two. Matheus originally had a bout scheduled in late October, but his opponent pulled out. Him and Slavikaus both only have a few weeks to prepare for this matchup. In the past, the models have never predicted a Camilo loss or a Borschchev win. I lost the one Matheus bet that was graded and have won betting against Viacheslav, both as an underdog and a favorite. Now let's see what the models think about this one. It should come as no surprise that the models again favor Matheus Camilo. He's a minus 158 favorite at the books, and I picked him up for 2.37 units. Next up is a featherweight bout between Sabatini and Chepe Mariscal. These two will be fighting just days after their birthdays. Unfortunately, they can't both be gifted a win. They've been away from the octagon for a very similar amount of time recently. Pat filled the gap with wins in grappling promotions, while Chepe seems to have just taken a break. The models don't have any way to account for competition outside of MMA, so they'll treat Sabatini's time away just the same. Pat is on a 2-fight win streak in MMA, but has also had 6 wins in BJJ competition during that time. Mariscal is on an 8-fight win streak, going 5-0 in the UFC. Looking at the wager history, the fighters have won in both of the matchups where I've placed bets. Sabatini cost me some money when I bet against him, and Chepe cashed a win as a pretty sizable favorite. Here's what the models are predicting. This time around, all of the models are very close to even, and they're split. 2 of 3 favor Chepe Mariscal as a small plus 105 underdog, so I placed a 1-unit wager on him. Let's very quickly review the betting strategy for anybody who's unfamiliar or just tuning in. The most important thing to know is that the models make 100% of the decisions. I'm only here to place bets and make videos. Here are the rules that I follow. Anytime the majority of the models are above 50%, I'll be placing a moneyline bet for that fighter to win. If the American odds for that fighter are positive, I place a wager of 1 unit. If those odds are negative, I risk enough to return 1 unit of profit. Finally, if all 3 models agree on which fighter will win, then I scale up from 1 unit to 1.5 units. As you can see on this fight, 2 models like Chepe, and he's a plus 105 underdog. So I placed a bet of 1 unit. Moving on to Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon at bantamweight. Malcolm is undefeated as a pro with 10 wins. He's 2-0 in the UFC, with both wins coming by right hook KOs in the first round. Haddon has a record of 8-1, his only loss coming to Steve Erceg in June of 2021. Cody is returning after more than a year away. This layoff was caused by a broken foot, which had him withdraw from a fight in February. Checking the wager history on these guys. The prediction model and the bookmakers had very close odds for Malcolm's bout against Simon, but I did end up losing that one when betting against Wellmaker. So what are the models saying now? In this coming fight, the book odds are a little bit wider, and for the most part, the models are as well. All 3 models give Malcolm Wellmaker the edge in this matchup, so I've placed a 2.1 unit wager on him as a minus 140 favorite. Our first of many middleweight matchups sees Gregory Rodrigues fighting Roman Kopylov. These two both have quite good records with even more impressive finishing rates, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Gregory has 4 submission wins. They all came in very small promotions though, and the most recent was in 2018. All of Roman's losses have come in the UFC, and 2 of those were in his last 4 fights. Let's look at what's happened in the past. The prediction models have always favored these 2 fighters, and they've been the favorite in every one of those bouts. 2 out of those 3 wagers have ended in an upset though, and the bankroll has taken a significant hit because of this. Here's what the models are predicting this time. They have again selected the book favorite to win, but they're all very close to even. With the tiniest of edges on 2 of the 3 models, I've placed a 1.6 unit wager on Gregory Rodrigues as a minus 160 favorite. Another middleweight bout is up next. This time it'll be Rodolfo Vieira versus Bo Nickal. There's a bit of an age gap here, with Rodolfo being older by more than 6 years. They're nearly identical in height, and Bo will have a reach advantage of 3 inches. Both of these guys prefer the ground game, with Vieira being a BJJ specialist and Nickal an American wrestler. It's easy to think that this fight will be won with top control, but we often see this style matchup take place mostly on the feet. Looking at the history, the last time we saw Bo fight a BJJ black belt, he was dismantled very quickly by body shots. This put an end to his undefeated record, and it lost me some money. I've placed 1 bet on Vieira and another against him, cashing each of those. Both times, he came in as a minus 215 favorite. Now for the model predictions. This time around, Bo is a moderate minus 230 favorite, and all 3 models like him at more than 60%. I risked 3.45 units on Bo Nickal to win this fight. Still in the middleweight division, this time watching Kyle Daukaus fight Gerald Meerschaert. Kyle is currently on his 2nd run in the UFC. The first time around, he was cut after amassing a record of 2-4 with 1 no contest. It's been nearly 3 years since his last loss, and he was able to secure a promotional win in August with a first-round KO of Michel Pereira. Gerald is 12-12 in the UFC and has lost 3 straight fights over the last year. Both of these guys win a lot of fights by submission, but only Meerschaert has lost by sub. Here's the wager history for these 2. Somehow, the models pinpointed Daukaus to win his last bout against Pereira, and they've gone 50-50 on Meerschaert fights for a small profit. Let's see what the models think. Fortunately, they are aware that Gerald is total ass, and they're only giving him a small chance of winning. All three see Kyle Daukaus having a clear advantage here, so I picked him up as a minus 350 favorite for 5.24 units. Up next is our first female fight of the night between Fatima Kline and Angela Hill. There's a massive age discrepancy in this fight, with Angela being 15 and a half years older at nearly 41. On top of that, she'll also be 3 inches shorter and giving up 2.5 inches in reach. It's no surprise that Angela has a ton more experience with more than 3 times as many fights as Kline, but her record is nearly 50-50, while Fatima has only suffered a single loss. Looking at the wager history. Last time out, I wagered on Kline as a massive favorite and cashed that one as expected. Meanwhile, the models refused to bet on Angela. Really no surprise at her age. We've gone 1-1 betting against her for a small profit overall. Here are the models' predictions. This time around, they again favor Fatima Kline, this time as a much smaller minus 500 favorite. I placed a 7.49 unit wager on her to return 1.5 units of profit with a win. We are right back at middleweight for a battle between Eric McConico and Baisangur Susurkaev. Again, we see another very large difference in age, McConico being 10 years older. This time, though, the experience gap isn't nearly as dramatic, with Eric only having 4 more fights. Eric started his career in early 2018, and Susurkaev got his start at the end of 2019. McConico had about 7 bouts under his belt before Baisangur made his professional debut. Since that time, he's been less active with many canceled fights. Here's the wager history. I've placed 2 wagers on fights involving McConico and won both of them, including a play on him as a small underdog in his last fight. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it looks like my bet on Susurkaev in his last fight was split into 2 wagers. Looks like I only risked enough to return 1 unit and had to add another bet to correct that. Let's see what the models think. They are even more confident in Susurkaev this time than they were in his last fight. He's a minus 800 favorite at the books, and all 3 models are well over 60%. So I've risked 11.99 units on Baisangur Susurkaev to win this fight. These fights are definitely out of order because there's no way we have Tracy Cortez versus Erin Blanchfield as the prelim main event for a numbered card. Again, we see a notable age gap. This time it's only 5 years, with Tracy being the older fighter, turning 32 within a month. This will be the second time that these two have faced off in an MMA bout. The first time was in February of 2019, with Tracy winning a split decision. Since then, Erin has a record of 10-1, while Tracy has gone 7-1, both only losing a unanimous decision early last year. Moving down to the wager history, in Tracy's last fight, I picked her up as a minus 250 favorite for a small profit. I also recently placed a bet on Erin as a moderate favorite, but her opponent pulled out and that wager was canceled. Here's what the models are showing. Despite losing their first bout, Erin Blanchfield is a minus 240 favorite at the books, and all 3 models also favor her to win. I risked 3.6 units on her to return 1.5 with a win. Our next matchup will be at welterweight between Michael Morales and Sean Brady. Michael is still undefeated at 18-0 with 13 KO/TKO finishes. 8 of those came in the first round, including his last 2 UFC bouts. Sean is 18-1 as a pro with a promotional record of 8-1. Unfortunately, his 1 TKO loss came at the hands of Belal Muhammad, who has been to 12 decisions in his last 14 wins. My wager history for these two is still perfect, with both bets being on these fighters. So what do the models say? Well, they can't pick them both to win this time, so they've sided with Morales. He's a small underdog at the books, but all three models have his win probability over 60%. I risked 1.5 units on Michael Morales as a plus 120 underdog to return 1.8 units with a win. We'll be back at lightweight for one more fight. This one seeing Beneil Dariush face off against Benoit Saint-Denis. So far, I feel like most of this card has had an age difference of 5 or more years. And this time, Dariush is the older fighter by 6.5 years. With this age comes a serious amount more experience, including 24 UFC fights compared to Benoit's 10. Saint-Denis has had 15 wins in his career, and of those, only one has made it to the third round. All of Dariush's stoppage wins have come in the first 2 rounds, but he does have 10 wins by decision as well. What he doesn't have is decision losses, and he's never survived a loss past the second round. So far, my wagers on these two fighters have not served me well. I've bet on the favorite in every bout and still lost 2 out of the 3. Let's see if the models can turn that around. I'm hoping for a better outcome this time around, and the models have again decided to place a bet on the favorite. Benoit Saint-Denis is a minus 180 at the books, and all 3 models predict him to win. I've placed a 2.7 unit wager on him to win this fight. The feature bout on this card takes place at welterweight when Leon Edwards goes to battle with Carlos Prates. These two are nearly the same height, yet Carlos will have a 4-inch reach advantage. Leon is coming off back-to-back losses and has taken a break of 238 days. Carlos got back in the win column his last time out and secured his 5th performance bonus in just 6 UFC bouts. Both of these guys have very extensive professional records, but Prates has just 6 fights in the UFC, while Edwards has 19 within the promotion. Looking at my betting history, on the 3 fights that the models have predicted, I've won every wager. I've bet the favorite in every bout and still have an ROI over 50%. Now let's see what the models are predicting. The learning models are all very close to even on this fight. The first one is the most confident and is still only at 54%. The other 2 are nearly a coin flip and they go either direction. If I were betting for value, I would likely take Leon. But y'all know the rules. The models make all of the decisions, and 2 out of 3 like Carlos Prates. He's a minus 200 favorite at the books, so I placed a 2-unit wager on him to win. Our co-main event for this card will be a 5-round title fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Weili Zhang at flyweight. Weili has vacated her strawweight belt and is stepping up to challenge Valentina. I can only find a couple of instances of Zhang fighting above 115 pounds, while much of Shevchenko's early UFC career was spent at bantamweight, including a title bid against Amanda Nunes. Valentina has ruled over this division for the better part of 7 years and has won 11 title fights. Weili has won 6 title fights at strawweight and is currently on a 5-fight win streak. Let's check the wager history. The last prediction had me place a bet on Valentina to lose, but she dominated that fight, showing why she's still the best. Weili was also a small underdog in her last fight, but the model was still very confident in her success. I was very surprised by the results of these predictions. All 3 are quite close to even, but 2 of them favor Weili despite her stepping up a weight class. She's a small plus 115 underdog at the books, and only 2 models agree. I risked 1 unit on Weili Zhang to win this fight, even though I personally disagree with this wager. Now we get to the main event of UFC 322. This is a 5-round welterweight title bout between Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena. Again, we see a former champ relinquish their belt to step up and challenge at a weight class above. Islam had 4 successful title defenses at lightweight. He finished 4 of his 5 title bouts by submission. JDM will be looking to make his first defense this weekend after winning the title in May by unanimous decision. Both of these guys have impressive records, including high finishing rates. Islam is on a 15-fight win streak and hasn't lost since his sophomore outing in the UFC. Jack is on an 18-fight streak with his only 2 losses coming in his first 2 professional bouts. Here's the history on these two. I don't have any wagers for Islam because his last title defense was before V2 of the prediction models. I do have a single wager on JDM though, where both V1 and V2 correctly predicted his victory over Beneil. So what are the models saying for the main event? This time around, I'll be placing my money on JDM again. All 3 models are very close, with 2 of them just above 52% and the other one not even at 51%. Jack Della Maddalena is a moderate plus 210 underdog at the books, so I've risked 1.5 units on him to win. This is not the outcome that I expected from the models, although Craig Jones swears that he knows the trick to beating Dagestani wrestling, so this might just be the best underdog play on the entire card. That's all of the fights on UFC 322, so let's have a look at our totals. This card currently has 14 fights, and the models were able to make predictions on all of them. They've selected 10 favorites and 4 underdogs. Of the 10 favorites, we upscaled bets on 8. We did the same with 2 of the 4 underdogs, and those just happened to be the biggest of our dogs. In total, I risked 47.52% of the bankroll on this card for a potential profit of 21.13 units. That's it for UFC 322 this week. We do still have LFA 222 and 173 coming up this weekend, so keep your eyes on the Patreon to see those wagers. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out. As always, thanks for watching and good luck on all of your bets this weekend.